All right, everybody, it does look like we've made quorum at this point, so I will get going with our remote meeting script and then get this meeting underway. So we are using Zoom for this meeting, which allows for the public to participate in the meeting as an attendee. The chair can request that members of the public provide their names for the purposes of keeping accurate minutes of the meeting. Attendees must register to participate. The registration link is unique to the meeting. The registration link can be found in the description of the Nantucket Government TV YouTube live feed for the meeting. Attendees will join in listening mode. They can click the raise their hand button if they wish to speak. The chair will call on those who have raised their hands in the order they were raised. All questions should be directed through the chair. So as a preliminary matter, this is Ashley Arisman, Chair of the Nantucket Conservation Commission. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Seth Engelborg.
Here.
Arisman here. Ian Golding.
Here.
Joe Plandowski.
Here.
And I know we are expecting Linda Williams and Mike Miserelli, but both will be a little bit late this evening. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Will Delerba?
Yes.
All right. Anticipated speakers on the agenda, please respond in the affirmative. We have Paul Santos.
Yes.
Cole Bateman.
Yes.
Ryan Maxwell.
Here.
Jonathan Schuster.
Here.
Karen Beatty. Not sure that we can hear you, Karen. Arthur Reed.
Here.
And I believe that's all for our anticipated presenters. So good afternoon. This open meeting of the Nantucket Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Nantucket Conservation Commission is convening by video conference via Zoom app as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and to take care not to screen share your computer. Anything you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that have been provided members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I note otherwise. We are now turning to the first items on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comments, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or your computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in a conversation with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. And for items with public comment, after members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment to those members of the public that have joined the meeting via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their names and be acknowledged by and speak through the chair. And finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. So with that, we will begin the May 25th, 2023 Nantucket Conservation Commission meeting under public meeting, public comment on items not being heard this evening. So at this point, we'll take public comment. It does not appear that we have any public comment on YouTube or on Zoom. This evening, before we begin, the following items are continued. We have Local Bowie Properties LLC at 15 Loretta Lane, continued until June 8th. We have the Trustees of Reservations, Cascada Cotu Wildlife Refuge, continued until June 8th. We have the Linda Loring Nature Foundation Incorporated at 90 Eel Point Road, continued until July 31st. We have Elniger at 30 Union Street, continued until June 8th. And under amended orders of conditions, we have Stark Point LLC at 16 Easton Street, continued until June 8th. So with that, we will begin under notices of intent. We have Nantucket Boathouse LLC at 2 and 6 Easton Street. And this is represented by Cole Bateman.
Good evening. I'm Michelle Hunton. I'm also representing from Rubin and Redmond, also representing Stephen Bartram with regard to this project, along with Cole Bateman. Lee Wishers also provided a submission to this project, and he was planning to attend but is running late. So I was wondering if the commission would mind sort of tabling the review of this project until later on in the meeting so that Lee can be present.
Yes, we can do that and put it at the end of notices of intent.
Thank you very much.
So that will move us to Nantucket Islands Land Bank, Magnolia Avenue and 20 Ocean Avenue. And I believe we have our own Will Delerba on because Rachel Freeman cannot attend this evening. And Will, you are muted, just so you know.
Got it. Hi, everybody. Will Delerba here with the Natural Resources Department. But this, if you'll remember from last meeting, this was a set of beach stairs and some path relocation and improvements. Rachel presented this at the last meeting. We were waiting on NHESP, so my presentation is very short. We now have NHESP, and that is all.
Thank you, Will. I just want to confirm that members that were not at the last meeting to hear this have read up and are able to sit on this matter.
Yes, Madam Chair. I watched the video and entered the appropriate forms to the Natural Resources Department, which should be part of the record.
Thank you.
I watched the video but didn't enter the forms, so Will, I'll make sure I do that.
Perfect.
Okay. Thank you. With only 4 of us on right now, I wanted to confirm. Any questions or comments from commissioners?
I think, sorry if this is out of line, but I think technically, if Ian hasn't sent in the form yet, he's not able to vote on this specific item.
Okay.
That is probably true, Seth. If we have 4 in total right now.
I don't want us to get into another Mullen Rule issue, legal issue, so.
Okay. So I guess this will have to continue then until our next meeting.
Continue to next
Will?
meeting or wait till the end.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately,
Yeah, send me the forms.
Okay.
Sorry,
Linda's
I
also
didn't mean to
coming in.
interrupt, and I take your point, Seth. Thank you very much. It was remiss of me. And I have loads of excuses. And all of the dog ate my homework varieties. So, you know, Ashley, I'll spare you. So, all right, thank you.
Okay. So I guess, Joe, you're muted. Joe, you're muted.
Muted.
Now you're good.
Linda Williams is on.
Yep, I know that she just came on. She kind of missed the beginning of this one, but yeah. Linda, so we just opened with Nantucket Islands Land Bank at Magnolia Avenue, 20 Ocean Ave.
Yep.
To catch you up, we do have natural heritage at this point. Do you have any questions or comments about this application?
Not really, not beyond what we've already talked about in the past.
Okay. So if there are no questions or comments from commissioners, I'll open this one up for public comment. Again, Nantucket Islands Land Bank, Magnolia Avenue and 20 Ocean Ave. So I do not see any public comment on YouTube or on Zoom. Will, do we have everything we would need to close?
Yes, we do, Ashley.
Okay. Is there a motion to close? Motion made by Joe. Is there a second? Seconded
Second.
by Seth. So by roll vote, Engelborg,
Aye.
Arisman, aye. Ian, have you been able to sign that form and send it in?
No,
All right, so Golding, are you gonna recuse or abstain on this?
I'm just going to say absent.
Okay,
Yeah, abstain.
okay. Plandowski,
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
All right, that carries with Commissioner Golding abstaining. And that moves us to Nantucket Conservation Foundation, West Hummock Pond, represented by Jonathan Schuster.
Oh, good evening. I can share my screen if that works for you folks and for Will.
Sure thing.
Yep, that's perfect.
Great. We also have Karen Beatty on from the Conservation Foundation. We presented this last time. We had 2 different Phragmites treatment scopes. I'm talking about West Hummock Pond right now. We did a remote AI assisted analysis of where Phragmites stands are. For context, the southerly portion of Clark Cove or West Hummock has been treated in the past under a different scope, and I believe there are still continuing conditions that allow for treatment. We're now asking for treatment for the entire area, including those areas above the management line. And just a reminder that we were seeking a 5-year permit if the commission saw that to be feasible, as well as ongoing conditions for spot treatment, which of course could be conditioned at the will of the commission to have, reporting associated with that, and of course communication. I believe the biggest holdup last time was some response from NHESP about rare species. We have gotten a decision letter back. That decision letter, I believe, was also relayed to the commission, and additional information is required. So I think procedurally, we can't close at this time. So we would be seeking a continuance until we can line up either a conditional no-take decision or meet those requirements ahead of an additional letter from NHESP. But I also wanted to take this opportunity to answer any questions the commission had about this project. Again, we're anticipating use of ClearCast and AquaPro, Marshmaster, as well as possibly hand cutting, while meeting those requirements that we're going to be working out with NHESP for those rare species that are in the vicinity. But I wanted to, at this time, answer any questions that the commission has.
Thank you, Jonathan. If you could stop the screen share, I can take questions and comments. Any questions or comments from commissioners? Looks like no. So we'll open up West Hummock Pond to public comment. And as an aside, it does appear we have Commissioner Beal on now as well. So I do not see any public comment. Jonathan, when would you guys like to continue until?
We have some conversations, that we need to have with the reviewer. I'm hoping to have more information very, very soon. We just got the decision, I think it was 2 days ago. So of course we'll be following up, making sure that, we can, making sure that they're comfortable with the approach that we're taking, involving our botanists, some rare plants involved. But I think it is doable to get a resolution there. I'll be in touch with conservation staff about the status of that. It's a little hard to pin down a date. If we wanted to, for now, continue to the next hearing, it is possible we could have a resolution by then, but I will certainly know within a week or two, let's say, whether or not we really need to push this out. They are potentially asking for some survey work. And if that happens, there could be timing constraints. So I don't know how open-ended we want to leave it now, but certainly continuing for a little while makes sense.
Okay, well, we have to continue until a date certain. Our next meeting is June 8th. We can continue until that date, and if you guys decide you want to continue again further, that's absolutely possible.
I think we can do that for now, and I'll know very soon if we need to continue further. Does that
Okay.
make sense? Okay.
It does. Perfect. So Nantucket Conservation Foundation at West Hummock Pond will continue until June 8th.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that moves us to Nantucket Conservation Foundation at Capon Pond, also represented by Jonathan Schuster and Karen Beatty.
All right. So now we should be looking at a different pond. Again, for the record, Jonathan Schuster with SWCA. We have Karen Beatty on from NCF. Basically a very, very similar scope, similar resource areas involved, and a similar approach for the estimation of those Phragmites polygons. A little bit more extensive here in terms of the stands that we anticipate to treat, so more acreage. If the commission wants, I can get more into those details that I went over at the last meeting. Differently from the last project, we do have a decision letter, and it is a conditional no take. So if from NHESP, if we follow those conditions and meet those guidelines, it should not result in a take. So we would be looking to close this evening. I'll take any questions, or if I needed to clarify something from last time, I won't rehash everything, but again, clear cast and Aqua Pro, use of Marsh Master, and some hand cutting involved here.
Thank you, Jonathan. Once you stop the screen share, I can take questions and comments. Are there any questions and comments from commissioners? Seth?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is the applicant also requesting the 5-year permit on this one? Because I do have an answer as to whether we can issue that.
We are seeking that, as well as the ongoing condition for spot treatment.
Great. So in the Wetlands Protection Act 310 CMR 10.05D, it says that orders of conditions are valid for 3 years, but there is an exception where you can issue an order for up to 5 years where special circumstances warrant that, and those circumstances are delineated in the order. So if we were to find upon this commission that there was a reason for the 5-year permit and we list them in the order, that permit could be granted for up to 5 years.
Thank you, Seth. Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Looks like no. So we'll open this one up to the public. Nantucket Conservation Foundation at Capon Pond. Does not appear that we have any public comment. Jonathan, you've already stated you'd like to close tonight. Will, do we have everything we'd need to close?
Affirmative, we do.
All right, is there a motion to close?
So move, Madam Chair.
Motion made by Linda, seconded by Joe. Mark, were you on for this one? You were on and then off. I don't know that Mark's with us. Engelborg,
Aye.
Arisman, I, Golding,
Aye.
Plandowski,
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
All right, that carries with Commissioner Beal kind of offline for that one. All right, so that moves us on to our next notice. We have 46 West Myacomet LLC at 46 West Myacomet Road, represented by Paul Santos.
Thank you. For the record, Paul Santos with Nantucket Surveyors on behalf of the property owner and applicant, 46 West Myacomet LLC. This application is for the proposed relocation of an existing footpath within a coastal dune, installation of a seasonal aluminum beach stairs within the coastal dune beach interface, and the after-the-fact installation of snow fencing within coastal beach and land subject to coastal storm flowage. Work is shown plan presently on the screen. Property is a residential property at West Myacomet Road. It is bounded by the east by land bank property. And in fact, there's a historic path that cuts from this property over land bank property to the beach. The intent is to stop use of that path, create a new path on the subject property, let the existing path on land bank property revegetate, and then create a set of seasonal beach stairs, aluminum beach stairs, one section approximately 20 feet in length that would be put in to gain access to the beach. There was a set of wooden beach stairs that had been placed on the land bank property that has since is no longer there. That has been removed. And there is some existing snow fencing as depicted on the plan that had been put in prior to the filing of this notice of intent. And that is depicted on the plan before you. The property does require review by NHESP. We do not have a response at this point. At the time, the existing home was renovated back some years ago. There was a no take with conditions issued for that component of the work, and that is included within the packet itself, but we are still waiting for word from NHESP. We do have our DEP file number. However, we will not be able to close tonight if we get to if we could get to that point based on commissioner comments. Happy to answer any questions that the commission may have. Again, relocation of an existing footpath and placement of seasonal beach stairs to gain access from this property to the beach. We did place in the body of the application the standard condition, I'm assuming that would be carried forward, which was construction access is proposed along the footpath from the house. All work will be prohibited during the periods of April 1st to August 31st without prior written permission from the town of Nantucket beach manager, and no construction vehicles are proposed for the installation of the stairs. Happy to answer any questions the commission or butters may have.
Thank you, Paul. Are there any questions or comments from commissioners? Seth, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Regarding the snow fencing, I would request that we ask the applicant to remove that. If you look at the site photographs, you can see it's just like the common roll-up wire fencing, which really is, I think, an outdated technology and not a suitable measure. And it's frequently breaking apart and causing wildlife impacts and wetland scenic view impacts. And since those are two of our protected interests, we should request that that is not covered by this permit, and that the applicant could come in with, you know, the more robust sand drift fencing or some other technique that they would want to do. But I cannot support the snow fencing. Thank you.
Thank you, Seth. I have to agree with you. I really am not a fan of snow fencing and find it dangerous within our beaches after big storm events, et cetera. So I would echo your request. Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Looks like no. So we'll open up 46 West Myacomet LLC. Oh, Linda?
I agree with you and Seth on the snow fencing.
Okay. Thank you, Linda. Any public comment on 46 West Myacomet LLC? Right, I am not seeing any public comment. Paul, you said you have to continue this. Would you like to continue until our next meeting?
I would, and I acknowledge the consensus of regarding the removal of the snow fencing also. So,
Okay.
but yeah, I'd like to continue.
Thank you, Paul. So this will continue until June 8th,
Thank you.
next meeting. Thank you. And that moves us on to Coonahan at 13 Swain Street. And it looks like we have Ryan Maxwell on for this.
Yep, thank you. For the record, Ryan Maxwell with Bracken Engineering. This notice of intent is for work within land subject to coastal storm flowage. This site falls within an AE flood zone of elevation 7. The applicant's looking to elevate the existing structure out of the flood zone and install a new crawl space foundation underneath. That new foundation will have all the necessary flood vents and will comply with the building code and FEMA's regulations. And that's pretty much it on this one. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yep.
Are there any questions or comments from commissioners? Does not appear that we have any questions or comments from commissioners, so we'll open up 13 Swain Street for public comment. It does not appear that we have any public comment. Will, do we have everything we would need to close?
Yes, we do.
Ryan, would you like to close?
Yes, please.
Is there a motion to close? Motion made by
Second.
and seconded by Linda. So by roll vote, Beal,
Aye.
Engelborg,
Aye.
Arisman, I, Golding,
Aye.
Landowski,
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
All right, that carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that moves us on to 63 Hulbert LLC at 63 Hulbert Avenue, represented by Mark Ritz.
Good afternoon, Mark Ritz from Site Design, representing the applicants at 63 Halbert. I think I'm joined by Arthur Reed and possibly Dan Malloy will be popping in a moment. What you have before you this evening is a request to take an existing structure and elevate it outside of the 100-year flood zone. All work is being done within the existing structural footprint. We're going to put this up on a flood compliant pier foundation. The only changes in structural footprint will be additional wooden steps to accommodate the new height. We are also proposing to enclose a porch located on the covered porch located on the landward side of the house. It's about 80 feet away from the resource area. Basically, that's pretty much the extent of the project, just elevating the house out of the flood zone and adding some steps so that it can be accessed at the new height. No grading, no change to retaining walls or anything like that.
Thank you, Mark. So at this point, are there any questions or comments from commissioners? Looks like no. So we'll open up 63 Hulbert for public comment. It does not appear that we have any public comment. Mark, would you like to close?
Please.
Will, do we have everything we would need to close?
Yes, we do.
Is there a motion to close?
Second, oh, Ian,
Yeah, mo-
seconded.
Motion made by Joe, seconded by Ian. So by roll vote, Beal,
Aye.
Engelborg,
Aye.
Arisman, I, Golding,
Aye.
Klendowski,
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
All right, that carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that moves us on to amended orders of conditions. We have Daughtry Ack LLC at 2 Mariner Way. And
I
we have,
recuse, Madam Chair, put that up front again. I have recused from this because they are my clients.
thank you, Linda. This is represented by Paul Santos. So Paul, I'll give it over to you.
Okay, thank you. Again, Paul Santos with Nantucket Surveyors on behalf of the property owner and applicant Doherty ACK LLC for a property located at 2 Mariner Way. This is the actual third hearing on this application. It is an amended order of conditions application, which originally was filed as follows. Within this request, the applicant is seeking permission for the reconfiguration of the approved dwelling and driveway, removal of the approved garage, and the installation of a pool within land subject to coastal storm flowage. Subsequent, this filing was originally made on April 13th. We continued the first hearing, provided supplemental information with regard to the pool, and on May 19th, which is the prelude to this meeting, I submitted a letter to the commission, which reads as follows. On behalf of the applicant, Nantucket Surveyors LLC is requesting to remove the pool component from the amended order request that was filed on April 13th, 2023 for the above mentioned subject parcel. We will be filing a separate second amended order of condition request on June 1st, 2023, which would be specifically for the pool. So we're asking the commission tonight respectfully to render a decision on the request for the reconfiguration of the dwelling and driveway and the removal of the garage only. To recap, this is an existing order of conditions exists for the construction of a dwelling, a garage, associated infrastructure within land subject to coastal storm flowage. So when we deal strictly with removing the pool component, what we're asking for is a reallocation of the building area, just a different configuration. The original building footprint was 1,700 square feet. It is proposed the new building is 1,700 square feet. We are removing the garage from the original proposal and reconfiguring the driveway. With regard to the amount of structure on the property, when you look at the building, decking, and so forth, this is a 272 square foot reduction in structure from the original order. So again, pool is not part of this amended order request. We're simply looking for permission for the reconfiguration of the structure, removal of the garage, and this all occurs within land subject to coastal storm flowage. And I'm happy to answer any questions that the commission may have.
Thank you, Paul. Are there any questions or comments from commissioners? Mark?
So Paul, you said you'll be back June 1st with a pool application?
Correct. And I just wanted to be as upfront as we could with the abutters because I know the pool was, I'm just trying to separate the two. We need to like to move forward with our permitting with regard to building permits and so forth on the amended order. And the pool seems to be obviously a concern. So we wanted to separate the pool as a separate amendment to the order of conditions and deal with that specifically with another filing.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Okay, looks like no. So we'll open this one up to the public, again, to Mariner Way for public questions or comments. Amy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just curious whether,
Sorry, can you state your full name and your address for the
course.
record?
thank you, sorry, Amy Cohane, 76 Union Street. And I understand separating these two, and I just was curious whether, Paul Santos, whether you saw the letter from RJ Turcott from the Land Council that was in the packet as well.
Paul, would you like to respond?
Yes, we have, Amy. So we have all the abutter letters and we have that letter. Again, that's why I thought it was best to bring the pool in separately. But yes, we have seen it. And I'm assuming if anything comes in new between now and the next meeting, we'll have access to that also.
Thank you.
Mitchell Carlin?
Madam Chairman, thank you very much. I'm at 115 Washington, and I just need to understand a point of order. If this condition, order of conditions is changing on this meeting with this supplemental, does that mean that then the order of condition again will be changing when they file another supplemental, potentially?
Yes, so they will be filing a separate amended order, which will start a new record for the pool component. It sounds like planned for our June 8th meeting. Any other questions or comments from either the public or commissioners?
Ashley, if I could too, that second amendment will be renoticed and new certified mailings will go out. So this is again, the process would start again just for the pool with renotice to all the interested parties.
Thank you for clarifying that too, Paul. So at this point, it does not appear that we have any other comments or questions. So would somebody like to make a motion to issue the amended order, removing the pool component that we previously discussed? Joe, were you making that motion?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Is there a second? Seconded by Seth. So by roll vote, Beal,
Aye.
Engelborg,
Aye.
Arisman, I, Golding,
Aye.
Plandowski.
Aye.
So that carries with Commissioner Williams recused. I want to thank everybody again for their participation in this matter. And it sounds like we will see this property again. Will?
Hey, sorry, just reminding us to not forget 2 and 6 Easton Street before we're out of public hearing. You may already be well on that though.
No, I had definitely forgotten, which is why I worried about continuing it till the end anyway. So thank you for that reminder. Even though I wrote it on my sheet with an arrow and everything. So at this point, we'll move back to notices of intent. We have Nantucket Boathouse LLC at 2 and 6 Easton Street. We have Michelle Hunton on, as well as Cole Bateman.
Good evening. Thanks again for continuing this. Again, Michelle Hunton of Rubin and Redmond on behalf of the applicant for the Easton Street project. And with me is Cole Bateman from Coastal Engineering. Lee Wisher was planning to join, but it doesn't look like he'll make it. So we'll just still go forward. Cole will get into the specifics of the project. I just wanted to speak for a couple of minutes on a few other issues, but just as a general overview, this project is for maintenance work on a bulkhead, pier, gangway, and float that has been existing on the property since the 1950s.
Sorry to interrupt you, Michelle. Will,
Sure.
can you screen share the plan? Sorry, Michelle, go ahead.
Oh, no worries. Thank you. I just wanted to start by requesting a waiver from the local regulations given that the structures at the property are grandfathered and qualify as a pre-existing use under the local regulations. As the commission is aware, in section 1.03 F3D of your regulations, it provides that the commission shall grant a waiver from these regulations when the work is grandfathered or qualifies as a pre-existing use, as defined in section 1.02 of your regulations. And going to 1.02 of your regulations, the definition for grandfathering and pre-existing use includes the use and normal maintenance of any structures that have been existing on a property prior to the enactment of the Wetlands Protection Act in 1972 and prior to the enactment of the Nantucket bylaw in 1983. And so here, the proposed work that, again, Cole Bateman will get into further detail regarding includes maintenance work on the bulkhead, pier, gangway, and float that have been existing on the property since the 1950s. Cole will show you some aerials that we have showing that they were in existence at that time.
Sorry, Will, is this the correct plan?
Hi, this is Cole. Will, it's actually in the initial application. This is the additional information. So it was in the other packet submitted initially. Thanks. It's I can't give you a page number. I apologize.
If I may, I was going to have Cole share this when he presents, because I know there's probably more than a few specific pages or something. If he wants to screen share when he starts talking.
Okay, perfect. Cole, would you like to screen share? Sorry for all the interruptions.
No. I was going to suggest that as well, that Cole is planning to share the plan when he gets into the detail.
I'm sorry, Michelle, are you ready for me to take it?
I have a couple more comments I wanted to make. So we're requesting, as I stated, a waiver from the local regulations because this project fits within the definition of grandfathering pre-existing use. And under the regulations, the commission is required to grant a waiver given the language shall is used. But given that, I just wanted to state that even though the local regulations technically don't apply to this project, we thought it would be helpful to the commission to still analyze all of the performance standards in your local regulations, as Cole has done in his notice of intent and Lee Wisher provided in his submission to demonstrate how the project has no adverse effect on the relevant resource areas. With regard to the Wetlands Protection Act regulations, we do understand that those still apply to the project. I did want to point out specific performance standard in with regard to coastal banks, which is the prohibition against new coastal engineering structures in 310 CMR 10.33. That provision only applies to new coastal engineering structures. And so that provision also doesn't apply to this project, given it is the maintenance on an existing bulkhead. That's all I had to say for now. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I'll turn it over to Cole to get into the details of the work. Thank you.
If there aren't any initial questions, I'll just move on. Thanks, Michelle. I'm Cole Bateman. I'm a professional engineer with Coastal Engineering Company. I prepared this brief presentation for tonight's PowerPoint, and then in the bottom right for the viewers' information, I have referenced affiliated page numbers within the additional information provided for this hearing. So much of this information is pulled directly from the application, and you can view it there as well. I'd like to start off with a brief introduction of the project site. As Michelle mentioned, we do have aerial photos of historic nature of this area. It seems to be a very photogenic portion of Nantucket given its project location, and we're very happy and fortunate of that. So this project site is the one circled in red here. It's located between the Upweller building at Brant Point as well as the Coast Guard station at Brant Point. It's two project sites. It's 2 and 6 Easton. And it's the start of an approximately quarter-mile long line of bulkheads that reach along the lower part of Easton Street. And actually more towards the center of town, there's another line of bulkheads, which I didn't include in that quarter mile. So there's a sufficient amount of bulkheads along this street. And this is the easternmost flank of it. The structures on the site also include a waterfront pier, which has a gangway float and the pier itself, as well as bulkheads. There's groins on this project site too, which are not included in this application at this time. And all of those are licensed with the Chapter 91 license numbers 7067, which is included in the appendix of this additional information. Also, as Michelle mentioned, the structures were constructed prior to 1972. The tag on this photo is from 1975, but I'll scan to the next slide, which has some more historic photographic information. And then the existing waterfront pier and bulkhead, the point of this project is that they require some maintenance. So for your reference, here is a historic photo, 1957 of the project site. I'll zoom right in. This is the Coast Guard station. This is our project site, and this is Brant Point. So it's a mirror image of the orientation from that last picture. The structure, the bulkhead is delineated by this line, kind of wraps around and joins the Coast Guard bulkhead over here. And then the pier is also located in this aerial photo. And again, this is from 1957. A more modern, up-to-date photo, this one's taken from 2017, shows the bulkheads again, and then the waterfront use structures. This photo also was within the last 5 years, no, not anymore, it's six years, and shows that the project has been in constant use since the original construction prior to 1957, which is one of the requirements for the grandfathering provision as well. And again, you may find some of these photos in the narrative if you'd like to follow along. So one of the biggest parts of this project that we considered, and it might not have been fully explained in the last presentation we gave, was that this part of Nantucket, as identified in the Coastal Resiliency Plan, is one of the priority coastal risk areas, and it's under constant inundation, which proves issues for both the residences along the stretches of Easton Street for ambulance access and all other emergency services, as well as some of the critical facilities along this portion. Within the CRP, the Critical Coastal Resiliency Plan, it identifies 5 most at-risk historical sites and 5 at-risk critical use facilities on Nantucket. At this project location, 2 out of the 10 are direct abutters, and then the last one, Brant Point Lighthouse, is right here. So it's very close to this project site. And one of the considerations here is how this project affects those 3 critical facilities. And part of the CRP, it also recommends that homeowners should provide their own local protection to protect their properties, alongside with the long-term plans, whatever that might be for Nantucket. So that's just outlining one of the project criteria that we really tried to use while developing the proposed scope of work, which I'll identify pretty soon. So as Michelle mentioned, the proposed scope consists of maintaining structures. There's 2 different structures that are identified in the scope of work. One is I'll start with the pier. One is a residential pier used for waterfront access. It's a water dependent use pier, both by definition in 310 CMR, Chapter 9 for waterways, as well as the Nantucket bylaws. And then the other structure is a bulkhead, a timber bulkhead, which is a coastal, it protects the shoreline. It provides resilience for the shoreline. That's part of the coastal bank. The pier is being proposed as maintained by replacing it. It's in like footprint, and also raising it to meet coastal resiliency standards, as well as providing increased public access along the waterfront. Because right now you cannot traverse the beach underneath the pier at mean high water. So with this proposed project, It'll give significant benefits to the beach for public access, because there is quite a bit of walking trails as you come through the Upweller building to the right. To the east and down here. So they'll give you increased lateral passage along the beach. For the bulkhead, the existing bulkhead is a timber bulkhead. Historically, in some of these more historic photos, it can be seen as a much more substantial face of the bulkhead exposed. And then over time, the beach seems to have accreted. So now it's about a foot or two of exposed height. And what happens is that during coastal flooding, not even significant storms, the bulkhead's overtopped, and then the project site's inundated. So what this project is proposing is to clad the existing wall with a fiber reinforced polymer. It's FRP. It's a synthetic sheet pile product, by installing it seaward of the existing bulkhead, and then capping the facade of that with some timber cladding to hopefully make it more permittable through HDC, as well as blend in with the other aesthetic values of this already stated very photogenic portion of Nantucket. And then the resource areas affected in this project consist of the land under ocean, coastal beach, coastal bank, and land subject to coastal storm flowage. At this time, we're proposing to permit this under the grandfathering provisions. And as Michelle said, we did address each one of these these resource areas in the performance standards for 310 CMR, as well as the Nantucket provisions within the narrative. But I am not going to get into those at this time in the presentation, but you're welcome to see them in the report. This is the site plan, and this was also previously presented to the commission with no changes from the previous submission to the current submission. I highlighted the majority of the project within this slide, but this is the plan that had been submitted. So as you could see, this is the bulkhead. This is the pier. The pier spans towards the dwelling, and it spans over the bulkhead. So one of the points of this project is to replace both the bulkhead and the pier at the same time for mobilization, as well as because it overlaps each other. So you really can't do one without doing the other, or having more harm to one of the structures by replacing it at a later date. Also included in the license, which aren't being addressed at this time, are these timber groins, and they're staying as is. The next slide is showing the sections, a little bit more detail of the proposed project. The most important part here is really identifying that we are allowing for increased public access as part of this project criteria. And for background information, that will also hopefully make this more permittable under the island perimeter regulations in the zoning bylaw. Because this is a pre-existing use under those regulations as well, which is obviously outside of the scope of the commission here. So with all that being said, and as Michelle previously stated, just wanted to highlight how we believe this project could be permitted under the local Nantucket regulations, and how we believe the commissioners have a way to permit this as currently proposed. The timber pier and the bulkhead meet the definition of the grandfathering provisions and pre-existing use, because they predate, I think it's 1972. And the proposed work consists of normal maintenance. So as Michelle said, and with all that being said, we're requesting a waiver pursuant to this section in the Nantucket bylaws. Lastly, we'd like to make the commissioners aware of some reference projects which have been previously approved, with help that they could have a reference for approving this project as well. Of most significance is 16, 22, and 26 Easton Street, which is on the other side of the U.S. Coast Guard station from our project site. And it consisted of essentially an identical scope, except for no pier. So in this photo on the right, we're showing the location of our project site at 2 to 6 Easton, and then this is the 16 to 26 Easton. So that's where this project had taken place, and the work consisted of the order of conditions NOI consisted in 2014 of repairing a deteriorated wooden bulkhead by driving new steel sheet piles, in that case, 1 foot off the existing wooden bulkhead. Going back to our project, we're proposing installing fiber reinforced polymer in front of it and cladding it with a timber product. So we'd like to think that was an almost like kind for like kind in terms of materials for aesthetic reasons. So even, hopefully even more permittable than this project. And then also this, just to reiterate, 16 to 26 Easton, we're also a line of that 1/4 mile long bulkhead. And you know, it's really a chink in the armor to not have a bulkhead installed here, especially with those critical use facilities on either side of our project site. Another reference project would be 12 to 22 Old North Wharf. This one was in 2015, which consisted of installing a steel sheet pile wall instead of in front of a steel sheet pile wall. And these are also within the additional material submitted and can be seen in exhibits 3 and 4. So a very similar project scope to the one we're presenting. And lastly, a more recent one is 15 Hallowell Lane. And this one's included as a reference project because it was a way for the commission to permit a project through the grandfathering provisions. And we believe our project has a similar scope of work permitting wise through the local Nantucket bylaws as this project. And therefore, the commissioners should be able to grant the waiver based on this project and how it was handled through the permitting process. So that's the end of my presentation. And I suppose we'll go to actually, I'd like to go to Michelle, please, unless you have any more comments to add there, Michelle.
No, I'm all set. If the commission has any questions, we're happy to answer further questions.
Perfect. Thank you. Any questions or comments from commissioners? Ian.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So on your cross section, to whom should I address my question?
You can address it to me, Mr. Commissioner Cole Bateman.
So, Mr. Bateman, so on your cross section there, yes, can you increase the, actually the next page? So what I'm trying to angle at is the compliant access for fishing, fouling, and recreation that you showed. There you go. Thank you. So what's that? The dimensions of that approximately?
That is
just theoretical?
I'm sorry. That is a 5 by 5 square, and this line is mean high water. So it's a 5 foot wide by 5 foot high box, and it's delineated at the mean high water line, the contemporary mean high water.
And at the mean low tide, which is where, of course, the legal requirement is between mean high and mean low, you've got significantly higher, right?
Oh,
Obviously.
yes.
Yeah, I see.
I'm sorry. I think we're going up 3 feet or
Okay.
to something about that.
So, and there's complete access under there as well, right?
But yes, because this is at mean high water and this is mean low water would be down here.
I
That's
just
correct.
wanted to, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Seth, I had seen your hand go up.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the applicants for their presentation. So I want to go back to the section about pre-existing use, because it's important to talk about or read what it actually says in that section. And it says existing structures, uses, and or alterations of land may not be extended and or modified unless such extension or modification is permitted by a finding of the commission that such alteration or modification shall have no adverse impact. So independent of the discussion about impact for a second, let's just talk technically about what an extension or modification is. So if you listen to the proposal and you hear that the pier is going to be elevated. The bulkhead is going to be elevated. That seems to me to qualify as a extension vertically. And then also, if you listen to the proposal and you hear that there's going to be a FRP sheet driven in front of the timber bulkhead with that timber capping, that seems to me to be a modification. So I think it's warranted to have a discussion about whether the rest of the commission agrees with that, and then to move on to, if we do agree with that, whether we think those potential extensions or modification have any adverse impact. Because if we determine that they do have an adverse impact, then the project can no longer be permitted under the pre-existing use part of our regulations and has to go through the normal performance standards. So, Madam Chair, I'd request that we go through that exercise if possible.
Thank you, Seth. I would have to agree with you that those are modifications to this structure. The FRP piling, I think, is I'm curious about that, so I have questions about that in general. But I am happy to have commissioners weigh in on modifications to the structure and any potential impacts.
Can I just say one thing as well that I forgot to mention? It is interesting that the applicant brought up 15 Hollowell Lane, because yes, we did end up permitting the groins under the maintenance protocol of pre-existing use. But if you look actually to what their original application was, it was for installing I believe, sheet, a steel sheet in front of an old timber bulkhead, and that was denied, and that has never been permitted. So it's a very similar situation to what we're talking about now, albeit a different material, but the same type of putting a sheet of a different material in front of a timber bulkhead.
Thank you, Seth. So would commissioners like to weigh in about the modifications and potential impacts of those modifications? I also should note that Commissioner Mazzarelli came in right at the beginning of this hearing, so he has been here the whole time, and it does appear that we've lost Commissioner Golding. Can any commissioners want to weigh in? Joe?
Would it make any difference if the height disappeared? In other words, don't make it as high, leave it the way it is, which is not very convenient. Does that make it far more acceptable?
I mean, per the regulations, it essentially has to be like in kind and the same. So yes, it would. However, we'd lose like the public accessibility under that structure, which is a difficult piece for me. I think my concerns mostly lie with the bulkhead itself and changes to that structure, including the FRP and the capping that's going to be used, and how that might impact kind of floodwaters moving forward. Mark?
Thank you, Ashley. I too want to have it clear in my mind if it's a grandfather project or a modification, but one question, if I may ask of the applicant, is there any height change, elevation change in the FRP new bulkhead when they're through? Will it be higher than the existing bulkhead?
Thank you, Mark. Cole, would you like to take that?
I certainly would like to. Thank you for the question. And to reiterate, you're asking if the new sheeting, the protective sheeting, the FRP, would be installed at a higher height. Can I ask if that's how you asked it?
Yes,
Yes,
That's correct. Okay.
yes.
So the answer to that is yes. The FRP sheeting is installed 1 foot higher, and the reason for that is I don't understand how projects could be maintained while the coast is, the design standards, for instance, the flood elevation and things like that are raising. In the way we scope this project is we're maintaining a similar level of protection as it was years ago by increasing the height of the bulkhead. So that's how we believe it's maintaining it and not a modification. We're maintaining a similar coastal resiliency.
May I follow up, Ashley?
yes, go ahead, Mark.
Will you be backfilling them, raising the area behind the new bulkhead a foot? And how far back will you be doing it?
We are not. We're not raising filling in.
Any other comments? Seth, I see your hand going back up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so it's difficult to parse some of these things out because I hear what Mr. Bateman is saying, and I agree that if we're going to plan for current conditions and anticipated sea level rise, that we need to use alternatives or we need to use engineering solutions that don't exactly replicate what is there now. That being said, our regulations are very specific in their wording as to what can be permitted under pre-existing use. So although like from a scientific technical side, I think there may be some benefit in choosing an alternative that it maybe is higher or is a different type of structure. We will, I believe, from a technical side, we will need to permit that under our performance standards. And when we get into our performance standards, there is this performance standard on considering alternative solutions that are more environmentally friendly. And I believe that performance standards put in for the specific purpose that we have at place now to consider not doing the exact same thing that we've done before, but to look at neighborhoods holistically and realize that, okay, this whole area is subject to sea level rise. Unless we raise up the bulkhead on every single property, which maybe we'll end up doing, it might actually be better to choose a different coastal engineering solution that diverts the water elsewhere or deals with it in a more nature-based way to prevent adverse impacts to downdrift properties. That's what I see the purpose of our regulations to be. But it's sort of this, there's a technical side and there's a scientific side, and then we need to meet in between.
Thank you, Seth. Michelle, I see your hand up.
Yes, I wanted to just raise a couple of points. I wanted to point to that the 16 to 26 Easton Street project that Cole referenced earlier with regard to the bulkhead issue. In that project, the existing bulkhead was also a timber bulkhead, and the repair done to it was placing steel sheet pilings on the seaward end of it. So in that project, there was a change of material, just like here. And I believe in that order of conditions, it was found to be a pre-existing use. So I think that the commission has permitted change in material. Some of the comments that you made, I do understand that, if the commission were, I agree with Cole's position regarding the increase in height, that it's really serving the same purpose as it initially was, and we're just adjusting to sea level rise. But I do understand that if the commission were to find that this was a modification, I still think the project can be found to be grandfathered as long as the commission finds that the modification has no adverse effect on the resource areas. I don't know if you agree with me on that. So I think if the commission were to find that there was a modification, it would be our position that the project will still have no adverse effect on the resource areas. And so it still fits into the grandfathering exemption, and then the performance standards don't apply. And so an alternatives analysis isn't required, if that makes sense.
Yes, thank you. Linda, I see your hand up.
I agree with Ms. Hunton. I've done a lot of research on almost every bulkhead over there as to when they got there, when the modifications took place, Chapter 91's per project all the way at the other end. So just for jollies, I did a research on every single bulkhead. Question for you is, it's going to look the same as the ones next to it? And it's not going to be any higher than the ones next to it? Some of them have already been raised, but not any higher? Or is it going to stand out as something unusual compared to everything else over there? Through you, Madam Chair, to Michelle, I would expect is probably the person, or Cole.
Okay, yep. Michelle or Cole, whoever wants to take that question.
Cole, I'll let you answer that one.
Thanks, Michelle. The proposed bulkhead is, again, it's the easternmost line of this line, a quarter mile long of bulkhead. So there's no adjacent project to the east where this would, stand out. And we're asking for it to be raised 1 foot higher. And it would be cladded with timber to match the existing look. If one could tell 1 foot, I'd be surprised, but that's what we're proposing.
Another question, Madam Chair,
Yes, Linda.
to Cole. You have that whole long line to the west. Is this going to actually stand up another foot other than the guys to the west? I understand why logically it would. I'm just trying to wrap my head around this a little bit. I know about to the east.
Cole, would you like to take that?
Yes, and I apologize. I don't have a photograph to show this as best as we could probably describe. I can't probably describe it as best as a photograph could show it. But the bulkhead, when it turns towards the Coast Guard station, maybe I can pull up the screen to share this a little bit better. Excuse me, my presentation. It returns towards the shore a little bit. And there's an existing concrete wall here. Can I actually please change it and ask if Lee would be able to respond? He had a site visit and documented this area. Lee, are you available to respond there through the chair? Can I please ask Lee too?
Sure. Just make sure to state your full name and relationship to the project.
Sure. My name is Lee Wisher. I'm with Woods Hole Group, and I'm a consultant for the project. I went over and did a site visit and examined not only the Coast Guard. My examination only went to the Coast Guard and then further to the east. I didn't go past the Coast Guard facility. Our bulkhead is slightly lower than the Coast Guard facility. And so the proposed project would take it up probably 6 to 7 inches higher than the Coast Guard facility. But from a water perspective, the eye is not going to be able to tell the difference. It's not going to be like, oh, that bulkhead is really high. That's just not going to be the perception at all, because of the fact it's as I said, our bulkhead's lower than the Coast Guard right now, and will be just slightly higher than the Coast Guard after it's finished.
All right, because through you, Madam Chair, just a comment. The ones to the west, a long string of them, they actually run into each other. They're attached to each other. So they look the same height and they are the same type of bulkhead. And so it looks like one run on all the way down to the White Elephant. So that's what I'm just trying to, and I have a picture of this from the water. I just can't find it at the moment. But thank you.
Thank you, Linda, and thank you everybody for responding. Seth, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Two comments in relation to Ms. Humpton's remarks, and then one question for either Mr. Bateman or Mr. Risher. So the first comment is that, past decisions by conservation commissions don't compel future conservation commissions to do anything or to act in any specific way. I understand that we all have an idea of precedence, and there's a common, use of that in the legal system, but precedence does not exist within the regulatory framework of the Conservation Commission. The Conservation Commissions examine each project on its own, apply the relevant regulations, and base our decisions based on that and nothing else. The second thing is related to the process of pre-existing use. So I think that I agree with parts of what you said, that the first thing to do is to decide if there's an extension or modification, yes or no. Then if yes, then to decide if there's any adverse impact. If no, then we can proceed with pre-existing use. If yes, then we go to the performance standards and the regulations. I don't know if we've really done that, Madam Chair. I think we've talked about it, but I think at some point before we move forward, we'll actually have to tick those boxes. And then to Mr. Bateman or Mr. Wisher, so in regards to the 1 foot elevational height change, can you talk a little bit more about why that number was chosen? I understand it's going up for sea level rise, but like what scenarios were used? Did you do modeling there? Why 1 foot specifically?
Yeah, Cole, I can address that. Actually, we looked at the Nantucket Coastal Resiliency Plan, and it calls for just under a foot sea level rise in Nantucket Harbor. And so we use that as guidance. And so I think that we pointed that out in our narrative in the filing, and I think I referenced it in my report also. So that's how that was chosen, based on your own study. And so we thought that was a good justification for choosing 1 foot.
Thank you. Mike, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To Seth's point, I do agree that we could look at this as a modification, but I don't see it as an adverse impact coming up the foot to the area. That's just my interpretation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. I know I have just a couple questions about the FRP material. Is that something that will shed microplastics, and is it in any way containing chemicals under the PFAS category, which is quite large at this point?
I suppose I'll take that one. So FRP, fiber reinforced polymer, is a pretty standard sheet piling product. It's used on multiple projects, probably on Nantucket as well. For instance, one was Easy Street Park, essentially right up the road from this. And it's a portion of the bulkhead as it turns towards the steamship terminal. So it's already pretty widely used. To be honest, I don't know the chemical makeup, but it's such a stable product that it's more recommended for long-term durability than other products like for instance, a creosote pile, which is there right now. So no matter what, we believe it's going to be an improvement for the material, and also in the long term, for long term, it's as opposed to like a timber product, it is a bit better than that, because you don't have to use like a CCA or go to a a green heart pile, you know, a rainforest product. So it's light, which is a good reason for constructability of this project site, because steel is really over designed for this project. So that's where FRP sticks in. And then another alternate would be vinyl, but we're really not proposing vinyl as much anymore because it's so intolerant to impacts that if a boat crashes into it, which I mean, it's right next door to the Coast Guard station, that would really pose a problem. So that's why we got narrowed into this product and believe that it is the best choice here. And hopefully that answers your question.
I mean, it didn't, because you didn't tell me if it contains, sheds microplastics or it contains PFAS. I'm very familiar with the CRP for Nantucket. So, the longevity of this site period, even with raising the bulkhead 1 foot, we're not talking, 30 years. This area will be long underwater. So, again, I'm curious and slightly concerned about some of the materials. The Easy Street bulkhead is raised much higher. But that's my question. Seth, I see your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. In reference to that, I was wondering if, before we close this hearing, if the applicant could provide some information from the anticipated distributor of the FRP sheeting that they plan to use with, some product information so that we could review it and have the information about what it contains and what any potential impacts on using it would be. Thank you.
Thank you, Seth. Ian?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So as you can see, I've lost the internet connection twice. And one of my questions was exactly along those lines and how thick it was going to be, because when I went online to look at the dimensions, there are different dimensions listed by the manufacturer. And so thank you, Seth. I second your request. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ian. And Seth, I just want to make sure we go through the process correctly for you. I get a little bit of brain fog at the end of the day after school. So do you want to go through each part of the structure and the change in performance standards, or see if it meets the performance standards with these changes?
So if I may, Madam Chair, I don't know if people have officially voiced their point, but it seems like at least 4 people have mentioned that they think this would qualify as an extension or modification. I think we've ticked that box, and I think the next part is to go into, is there any adverse impact of that extension or modification? It sounds like there are some potential concerns about the FRP material that we will be waiting to hear. I don't necessarily think there are impacts related to the change in elevation, because I understand that, it needs to be resilient to sea level rise. I think that I do have concerns about the change in material and the actual increase of material, because you have the existing timber bulkhead, then you're going to have an FRP sheet, then you're going to have another timber veneer. So there's potential aesthetic impacts to that. I don't know. I haven't really seen I would like to see a artistic rendering maybe, because we do have to worry about wetland scenic views as well.
Thank you, Seth. And I also, I realize it's coming up a foot for resiliency, but I wonder if that'll actually impact the shellfish hatchery and Brand Point Lighthouse more, because now the water's going to hit it, and instead of overtopping, we'll be forced around to those sites more quickly, which I do see as a potential new impact with increasing the height of that bulkhead. So if there aren't any other questions or comments from commissioners, I want to make sure to open this up to the public. Again, we're at Nantucket Boathouse LLC, 2 and 6 Easton Street. It does not appear that we have any public comment on YouTube or on Zoom at this point. And I think commissioners have made their comments. Michelle and Cole, what would you guys like to do? Would you like to continue to get some of these questions answered? Michelle?
Yes, we would like to continue to answer some of these questions, especially your concerns regarding the material. I don't know, I'm not the engineer here, so maybe Cole can jump in. If it was a metal material, would that be something that would be better for the commission? Or is there anything that you?
I think we see the steel sheet piling more often.
Okay. I forgot I was referring to the steel sheet
Ma-
piling. But I don't know, Cole, if that's potentially an option here.
Sorry, Cole. I also saw Seth's hand up. I don't know if he was going to weigh in, but Cole, go ahead.
I was going to ask if the commission would be comfortable putting in a condition that would be reviewed prior to, it would be part of the order of conditions to have a review for the materials, and we can still potentially go through with a vote and an approval as a condition for having a material that's approved. Because to me, it seems like that's more of a smaller part of the project, is the spec rather than the global issue that we're trying to accomplish here. I'd just maybe like to have that as a consideration, please.
I know I would be uncomfortable with that given the change here and just the other bulkheads we see. I think it would be better to keep this one open.
Well, may I just say that you just pretty much said that a steel one would be more acceptable. And to me, that seems that, if that's something that could be, worked out after the meeting closes, because it seems like a pretty easy response for you to say that steel's acceptable, but not FRP. Apologize if that sounds rude.
No, we're just more familiar with the steel product as it's used more frequently for us. So I am not comfortable permitting the project as it is in front of us with FRP. I would like to hear more about that. But we have other commissioners here too. Seth had his hand up, and then Ian, I saw yours. So Seth, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And on other projects, I have exhibited similar concerns about the steel sheet piling. So I think that my best course of action to proceed would be to request that the applicants review all the potential materials that they would consider and send us specs on all of them. FRP, steel, fixing the timber in place, or whatever other engineering solutions exist that I don't know about. And then I'd like to review those before we close the hearing. And I'm also starting to think, because of some of the comments that you said previously, Madam Chair, about floodwater displacement, I want a little bit more time to think about the impacts of the elevation as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Seth. Ian? Oh, you're muted.
Damn it, excuse me. I beg your pardon. So I mirror Seth's request, basically, because I also am not a particular fan of steel replacing wood. And so that's all I have to say. Thank you. So I'm not for approving this without a great deal more information.
Thank you, Ian. Joe, I saw your hand up.
Yes, several months ago, we had a discussion about a pier in a similar sort of situation. And I went online and looked up FRP. There's a tremendous amount of information on it. And what I read on there looked good, but I can't recall specifically what the composition of the material is. But you'll find a comparison with steel and wood and FRP. And from my perspective, it's hard not to use FRP. I concur on the steel issue. I prefer not to use steel. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Joe. It does not appear that any other commissioners are going to weigh in at this point. So Michelle and Cole, would you like to continue or try and proceed?
Continue.
Okay, would you like to continue until our next meeting, which is June 8th?
Yes, I think that's fine.
Okay.
Does that work for you?
Okay, we're getting the thumbs up. So this will continue 2 and 6 Easton Street until June 8th. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
And that moves us on. We already did our amended orders to requests for determination of applicability. We have Kolb at 8 Main Avenue. And that's just represented by Kolb, so I'm not sure. Can you state your full name? Laura?
Hi, yes, I have to recuse from this, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Linda.
I'm Michelle Kolb, the owner of the property. So do you need me to explain this or?
Yes, kind of explain what you're looking to do, and then we'll make a decision from there.
Okay, I proposed a platform on grade at the HDC. And the platform would be located approximately 165 feet from the dune. This is a Google Earth overlay of the site plan on the site. And the other submission was a Google map. And the Google map shows it at 205 feet. The platform proposal was 18.6 by 26.11. And based on the HDC review today, it was requested that the width of it be cut down to 22 feet in width. But from from the indication of this, it should fall within the 100-foot. Will, did you need to say anything?
Any questions or comments from commissioners? Seth?
So I believe this is within the land subject to coastal storm flowage. Is that correct? No?
I checked because I thought so too. It's actually like perfectly around it. It's clear on LSDSF. And we did, not to jump ahead or anything, but we did go out and measure, and it's definitely over 100 feet away from the edge of where this porch is going to be.
So in that case, what resource areas, if any, are we talking about?
It's a -4 determination, so it's not in the resource area. I think this was just to make sure that she was not in the resource area.
Thank you, Will.
Yes, gotcha.
Great question, Seth, because I was a little bit confused as well. Any other questions from commissioners? And if not, it sounds like Will's been out there and would recommend a -4, that this is outside of the resource area. So would somebody like to make that motion? It looks like Mark is making the motion. Is there a second? Seconded by Mike. So by roll vote, Beal.
Aye.
Engelborg.
Aye.
Harrisman, aye. Golding. Oh, he froze. Nizzarelli.
Aye.
Landowski.
Aye.
All right, so that carries. We lost Commissioner Golding and Commissioner Williams was recused. Thank you, Ms. Kolb.
Thank you. Thank you all.
And that moves us to India at 25 Almanac Pond Road. And we have Ryan Maxwell on for this.
Yep. Thank you. For the record again, Ryan Maxwell with Bracken Engineering. This RDA is for a septic upgrade with within 100 feet of a BVW. This site also falls within the Nantucket Harbor watershed, which requires that septic systems be upgraded by incorporating an IA component that reduces nitrogen. So in this case, we're proposing a new microfast tank to replace the existing septic tank. And the existing septic tank will remain in place, but it'll just be filled in. And all of the other septic system components like the pump chamber and the leach field will remain unchanged. And that's all I got for this one. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ryan. Are there any questions or comments from commissioners? Looks like no. Will, have you been out and do you have a recommendation? Oh, and you're muted.
Sorry. Yes, we have been out there and it will be a -3 for our recommendation.
So allowing for the work without a permit?
Yes, indeed.
Okay. If there aren't any questions or comments from commissioners, would somebody like to make a motion to issue a -3 to allow the work without a permit? Motion made by Mike, seconded by Joe. So by roll vote, Beal,
Aye.
Engelborg,
Aye.
Arisman, I, Mazzarelli,
Aye.
Landowski,
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
All right, that carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. And that moves us on to minor modifications. We have 30 North Beach Street LLC at 30 North Beach Street. And it looks like we have Brian Madden on for this one.
Hello, everyone. For the record, Brian Madden from LEC Environmental Consultants. The minor modification for the beachside involves some minimal driveway updates, driveway entrance updates, and some landscaping updates. You'll see on this sheet, just to recall some things that were previously approved. The two entrances within the interior off North Beach Street are being removed. And Will, if you go down to the next sheet. Thanks. So this shows that northerly entrance just expanding a little bit to the south to accommodate two-way traffic. That was a planning board request. There was a brick walkway added behind unit building 7 in the southwesterly portion of the site that is currently existing concrete. And again, the project is removing approximately 26,000 square feet of concrete in the back there and replacing it with vegetated swales for stormwater management and replacing the traveled surface with a pervious surface. And then the final landscaping update, there's a series of dry laid stone patios and walkways between buildings 8 and 9 within the easterly, southeasterly, or northeasterly portion of the site. That's all outside the 100-foot buffer zone to wetlands, but is within land subject to coastal storm flowage. And those are the updates. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Brian. Are there any questions or comments from commissioners? All right, it looks like no. Will, have you been out to the site and do we have everything we would need to issue the minor mod?
Yes, and yes.
Okay, perfect. Would somebody like to make a motion to issue the minor mod? Motion made by Seth.
I'll
Is there a
second.
Mark got you on the
Beal got me.
He got you. Quick draw. So by roll vote, Beal,
Aye.
Engelborg,
Aye.
Arisman, I, Mazzarelli,
Aye.
Landowski,
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
All right, that carries unanimously.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Brian. And that moves us on to certificates of compliance. We have Lenhart at 25 Dukes Road.
Hi, guys. I don't know if you want me to share my screen or not, but essentially, we were missing a monitoring report last time. I'm just sharing this. And this is Chuck's letter, kind of in lieu of those reports that you can't travel back in time for, but I know I sent this around last week probably, so.
Thank you, Will. Hopefully, everybody had a chance to look at that.
I can also Zoom, sorry, if anybody wants to read that, it's probably unreadable at that level.
We're pretty familiar with this project.
Thank you, Will. Any questions or comments from commissioners? Seth?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And with respect to Mr. Lenhart, I take this submission as insufficient. Well, first of all, it needed to be like 2 to 3 years ago. And in his letter, you know, he came into the Conservation Commission for a notice of intent for vegetation management. If you look at the notice of intent, it specifically calls that out. And we had requested a specific vegetation management protocol, which he never provided. And he, in his letter, is now saying, you know, he does not accept the responsibility really for management. And that was the whole purpose of the notice of intent. I don't know what we can do at this point, but if the applicant was proposing Japanese knotweed management, and it's our role to make sure that management is done in a ecologically sensitive way to protect the resource areas under the Wetland Protection Act, this is just frankly an insufficient breakdown in the process. And I feel like the applicant did not really meet the orders of condition here.
Thank you, Seth. Joe?
I thought it was a little strange when I read it. It was one of those, I'm the authority, I know what's going on, and don't bother me.
Thank you, Joe. I would agree. It is dismissive of our process. And I am also not comfortable issuing a certificate, given the fact that he didn't meet the criteria laid forth in his order. Seth?
And if I can respond to the technical pieces in the letter, I understand the part about not wanting to use herbicide. That's fine. Although I personally think herbicide is a great tool for Japanese knotweed management, it's certainly not the only tool. There are other tools that can be effective if you do them right. But we needed, and I think at this point still need the applicant to submit a actual protocol with techniques, timing, phasing, all this stuff for the commission to review and to deem it to be appropriate, because that was the original intent of the notice of intent.
Thank you, Seth. So I guess I don't know where we go from here. I mean, we can deny a certificate of compliance. We could probably also issue an enforcement if we feel that he has not met the criteria under his order. Linda?
Can we continue it for Chuck to come in? Because he really hasn't been here any of the times this has come before us.
I would certainly be willing to do that. I know we've continued a couple of times looking for this information, and then, you know, obviously received the letter that we got. But I would be, happy to continue and allow him to come before us, to be part of the conversation.
That would be if a motion is necessary at this point, that would be my motion.
I'm not sure we need a motion to continue, but we might need a motion to request that he attend.
That would be my motion. Yeah.
Okay. So Linda's made a motion to request that the applicant attend next meeting. It looks like Mark is giving the second, as well as Mike. So by roll vote, Beal,
Aye.
Engelborg,
Aye.
Harrison, I, Mizzarelli,
Aye.
Landowski,
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
All right, that carries unanimously. So we'll continue this until the next meeting, and hopefully, Will, you can send communication to Mr. Lenhart to be in attendance. Thank you. So that moves us on to Third Time Trust at 41A Cliff Road.
I have to recuse. I've been on this project for 4 years. Oh, good.
Okay, thank you, Linda.
Sharing my screen again, sorry. So these are photos that we did not have. I believe this was a couple meetings ago for 41 Cliff, and they were tracking down these photos during the knotweed treatment. So we now have these photos. The knotweed is somewhat back in 2023, but they're not. I think they're not spraying it anymore. They don't want to be spraying herbicides back there anymore, et cetera.
Okay, thank you, Will. That knotweed's gonna really just take right back over. Any questions or comments from commissioners? It's like no. Will, do we have everything we need to issue the certificate?
Yes, we do.
Would somebody like to make that motion? And to issue the certificate of compliance for Third Time Around 41A Cliff Road.
Has their treatment been ineffective, Ashley? I mean, that's troubling. It's right back.
I mean, it sounds like they just don't want to continue treatment. And if you don't, like, knotweed is consistent management. So you can knock it down to a certain point, but you have to really, spend year after year doing that and then still have ongoing spot treatment, usually with some type of herbicide to stop it from returning. Seth?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm looking at the conditions in the order of conditions, and unfortunately this order doesn't have any conditions related to the efficacy of the knotweed treatment. So we can't really require them to continue that. So because of that, I will make a motion to issue the certificate of compliance.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Mark. So by roll vote, Beal,
Excuse me. Aye.
Engelborg,
Aye.
Harrisman, I, Mizzarelli,
Aye.
Landowski.
Aye.
All right, so that carries with Commissioner Williams recused. And that moves us on to Baines at 16 Tatamo Way. And we do have Art Gasparo. I don't know, Art, if you want to speak to the project.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. We are requesting a certificate of compliance. We did provide a as-built plan as well as a summary of what's gone on for a brief description in terms of there wasn't annual monitoring reports that were provided, but I did talk to the landscaper who has taken care of the project and who had done the plantings back in I think it was 2017 or 18 when this went in, and they really haven't had to do any maintenance or had any, additional work that has had to happen down there in terms of monitoring. Everything has looked good down there. This was to add in just a couple of rows of fiber rolls adjacent to the existing bulkhead where there was some erosion. But again, it's been stable for some years, and it looks good now.
Thank you, Art. Are there any questions or comments from commissioners? Looks like no. Will, have you been out to the site, and would you agree that we could issue the certificate of compliance?
Yes, and yes, Ashley.
If there are not any questions or comments from commissioners, would somebody like to make a motion to issue the cert? Looks like Mike is making that motion. Is there a second?
Sorry, Madam Chair, is there any ongoing conditions?
Oh, I'm forgetting that again. Any ongoing conditions, Will?
Sorry about that. I actually wanted to ask about condition 21, and I have it highlighted. Project area as defined, or the project area defined as the area east of the bulkhead to the property line shall be kept free of invasive species. Any treatment shall be no greater than clip and drip applications with protocols provided to commission staff and any herbicide quantity reported to the commission. When I was out there, I didn't see anything alarming or at all, but I just wasn't sure if this was a continuing condition that would be desired by the applicant or something like that.
I don't think they would want any ongoing conditions. Like I said, I didn't see any invasive species there either. And I'm not sure that would, be needed, or I think it might be just another challenge for an area that's not problematic to sort of impose a compulsory type of a condition like that. But I defer to the commission.
Thank you, Art. And I apologize for missing ongoing conditions 2 meetings in a row. Does anybody want that ongoing condition, or do we feel okay just closing out the cert?
I'm okay to make the motion to close it out.
All right, so Mike has made a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Linda. So by roll vote, Beal,
Aye.
Engelborg,
Aye.
Arisman, aye. Mazzarelli,
Aye.
Landowski,
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
All right, that carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that moves us to the Wallwinnet Inn LLC at 120 Wallwinnet Road. And it looks like we have Catherine Barnacle on for this one.
Hi there. Do you want me to speak on this? I wasn't sure how certificates of compliance usually are handled.
I mean, you can explain the project and the outcome, I guess.
Absolutely. This was a replacement of the existing septic system, which is in the lawn facing the harbor from the Wallwinnet. And it was redone about 15, 16 years ago. And it just, there's a certain life with these septic systems, and it was just the leaching field that was replaced. The BioClear units, any of that, the other tanks were not touched. So it was just a replacement in kind. Everything was done, and we're just closing things out. And this is the as-built plan by RJ O'Connell. So everything went well. And we request a certificate of compliance, please.
Thank you. Will, have you been out to the site, and would you agree that we can issue a certificate of compliance?
Yes, and absolutely.
Any ongoing conditions with this one?
This one does not. We had 18 and 19 general conditions.
Yeah.
Our normal, sorry.
I just
No
need
ongoing conditions.
I have to remember to ask every time or I'll forget. So
all good.
Yeah. Thank you. Would anybody like to make a motion to issue the cert? Motion made by Mark. Is there a second? Seconded by Mike. So by roll vote, Beal,
With that long trip, Will, I hope you got a cheeseburger out of the deal, but I'll vote aye.
Engelborg,
Aye.
Arisman, I, Mazzarelli,
Aye.
Landowski,
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
All right, that carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that moves us to the White Elephant Hotel at 50 Easton Street, also represented by Catherine Barnacle.
Great, thank you. This is the White Elephant Hotel. We did dredging back in the 2016, 2017 season. And part of this is really just to close out the project. We like to keep dredging projects open in case we have to go back in. And so we did wait some time and then we forgot to close it out. That my bad. But so what I've submitted to you is the certificate of compliance information that we submitted to Mass DEP as part of the water quality certification, which was required to be submitted immediately after the dredging. So what I did is I just attached that to our request for certificate of compliance. Everything went well. It went according to planned. Everything was removed off site, and we're just trying to close out this file.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from commissioners? Looks like no. Will, have you been out to the site, and what would you recommend here?
I took a swim and I checked. No, I'm just kidding. I've been out there, but I reviewed the plans and I also showed them to A1 Vince Murphy, and everything looks fantastic.
Great.
Okay, I'm assuming no ongoing conditions with this one.
And no ongoing conditions. I meant to say that before you had to ask, but
Perfect. Would somebody like to make a motion then to issue the cert? Motion made by Mark and seconded by Mike. So by roll vote, Beal,
Aye.
Engelborg,
Aye.
Arisman, I, Mazzarelli,
Aye.
Landowski,
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
All right, that carries unanimously.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And that moves us to Liberty Realty Trust at 36 North Liberty Street. Which, Will, are you gonna take this? Because it looks like Ryan Maxwell jumped off.
yeah, I'm not sure we have anybody here for this, but that's fine. This OOC, it was for the removal of some steps and a stoop to the house, construction of a new porch, new steps. This was in the buffer zone to an isolated vegetated wetland. Let me bring the plan or I'll bring the photos up. But I've been out there upon inspection. Everything looks good, everything as it's supposed to be, and there are no ongoing conditions for this project.
Thank you, Will. Are there any questions or comments from commissioners? Then would somebody like to make a motion to issue this, or we didn't have any lighting or anything on this one, Will?
Nope.
No. Mike, were you making a motion? Okay, so Mike's making the motion to issue the cert. Is there a second? Seconded by
Second.
Joe. So by roll vote, Beal,
Aye.
Engelborg,
Aye.
Arisman, I, Mazzarelli,
Aye.
Landowski,
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
All right, so that carries unanimously. That moves us on to orders of conditions. I believe our first one this evening will be Nantucket Islands Land Bank at Magnolia Avenue and 20 Ocean Ave.
And we only have 4 of these, correct? I just want to make sure I didn't mess up my count somehow.
No,
But-
I only have 4 as well.
Okay.
I've got 4. Nantucket Land Bank, El Neger, Cunahan, and 63 Halbert.
Perfect. All right, so this was for the Magnolia Ave beach stairs and path. We had conditions 18 and 19, and then number 20 was photographs of the revegetated area shall be submitted to staff for review annually. Do we have anything else we'd like to apply to this project?
Commissioners, any questions, comments, or amendments? Mike, yep, go ahead.
Yeah, I wasn't here in the beginning of the meeting, so I should probably not vote on this one. But did I?
Yeah, I think you are actually absent from all four of these, if I have it marked down right. I was trying to keep track.
Yeah, I
How
think
convenient of me.
that would be right. Yeah.
Okay.
But we
thank you.
forgive you.
But I thought if he sat on one of them, like he should be able to hear Land Bank and Conservation Foundation, can't you? Oh, you have to still read in. Sorry.
Yeah, you probably have to read in. That's
Yep.
fine.
Yes, Mike, you'll have to sit. Again, any questions, comments, or amendments for the Magnolia Avenue, Ocean Ave? And if not, would somebody like to make a motion to issue the order as drafted?
So moved, Madam Chair.
So I think Seth got you with the motion. I'll give you the second, Linda. So by roll vote, Beal,
Aye.
Engelborg,
Aye.
Arisman, aye. Mike, are you just gonna abstain? Or
Yeah, I'll just abstain.
okay. Plandowski,
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
All right, so that carries with Commissioner Mazzarelli abstaining. And that moves us on to Nantucket Conservation Foundation at Capon Pond.
All right. Got some reading to do. So we have 18, which is our all work shall be performed in accordance with site work and description. Then 19, the applicant shall provide a copy of an executed contract to cover the work for the life of the permit and demonstration that the funding for that contract is held for that purpose. 20, this order permits the use of clear cast ammonium salt of imazimox in accordance with the label located on the herbicide. 21, this order permits the use of a no greater than 25% glyphosate water-based solution, rodeo or equal for clip and drip application, or 2% for foliar spray application, or as required by the label on the specific herbicide. 22, foliar spraying is an approved method of herbicide application for this project. 23, the quantity and specific type of herbicide used will be reported in writing to the commission on an annual basis. Any herbicide shall be applied by a licensed applicator. 24, any excavated material or plant material removed from the site is to be disposed of through the digester at the Nantucket landfill. 25, a report including location photographs shall be provided to the commission showing the conditions prior to the work being started and at the conclusion of the growing season. These reports shall include approximate Phragmites coverage and regrowth and native species regrowth within the project area. 26, the applicant shall be required to do vegetation surveys showing potential impacts from spray application of herbicide in 100 yards in each direction from the application area. 27, should the project area show less than 50% regrowth of native species within the first 2 years and 6 months of the permit, the applicant shall file a new notice or amendment for supplementing the area with native plantings and reseeding. 28, all reports are required annually until a certificate of compliance is issued. 29, spraying of herbicide shall not be allowed in wind speeds greater than 10 miles per hour. 30, prior to the start of work, an on-site meeting with the applicant and commission staff will take place to mark the monitoring plots transects with a fixed marker at fixed locations and review monitoring protocols. 31, any machinery used in the bordering vegetated wetland shall be cleaned and inspected for any material prior to entry or exit of the area. And 32, the applicant shall meet with commission staff on site to determine access points for the marsh master and shall be present during the initial access to observe any impact from the machine on the resource area.
Nice job, Will.
Wow.
Thank
Reading.
you. Any questions, comments, or amendments from commissioners? Seth?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think all the conditions are good, but this would be the time to talk about the request for the 5-year permit life.
Right on.
I personally, although the request is issued, feel more comfortable just sticking with the 3 years and then having them come in for the extension if needed. But if other people disagree, then we need to delineate the specific requirements that would allow this to be a 5-year project.
Thank you, Seth. I know I mentioned during the last meeting that we discussed this, that you know, I'm not really for a 5-year permit. And I think that adding additional years, you know, at the end of the 3 years or before their permit expires, I would be, you know, or I think a future commission would be likely to grant that. Mark?
I think that's a very logical way to handle it. A 3-year permit makes the most sense, and come back for extension if need be. But I like having a 3-year issue. We can watch it as it comes along.
Thank you,
I
Mark.
agree.
Okay. So it sounds like the majority of us agree for just a normal 3-year permit with the ability to extend, which it sounds like they'll want to do. Okay, you're adding an additional finding. Sorry, I'm trying to follow the screen. So Will is adding that as a finding. And so any other questions, comments, or amendments? And if not, would somebody like to make a motion to issue as amended? Mark, are you making a motion? Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, so by roll vote, Beal,
Aye.
Engelborg,
Aye.
Arisman, aye, Mazzarelli. Oh, yep, you're abstaining. Can you just state that you're abstaining?
I'm abstaining from this one, Mike Mazzarelli.
Thank you. Plandowski,
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
All right, so that carries with Commissioner Mazzarelli abstaining. And that moves us on to Coonahan at 13 Swain Street.
All right. So we had 13 Swain Street, the raising and slight relocation of an existing structure within land subject to coastal storm flowage. I have conditions 18 and 19. Is there anything that anybody would like to add here?
Seth, go ahead.
Lighting condition, please.
Just a moment if anybody else has anything too.
Any other questions, comments, or amendments? It looks like not at this point. And I guess we need to change that just a little because the resource area is land subject to coastal storm
Yeah.
flowage.
We can just say shall be in compliance with Chapter 102 of the Code of Town of Nantucket. Take the resource area out.
Is everybody happy with that? Not hearing anybody say no. So would somebody like to make a motion to issue as amended? Motion made by Joe. Is there a second?
Second.
Made by Linda. So by roll vote, Beal,
Aye.
Engelborg,
Aye.
Arisman, aye, Mazzarelli,
Abstain.
Plandowski,
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
All right, so that carries unanimously. And that moves us on to 63 Holbert LLC at 63 Holbert Avenue.
All right. This order permits the elevation of an existing SFR, construction of steps. I think we should throw the lighting condition in. But was there anything else?
Seth?
Thank you, Madam Chair. In regards to the steps, can we please put a condition that says that there should be no pervious landings for the steps, like concrete pads at the bottom or whatever else may be. Just they need to use an impervious landing so that we're falling within the land subject to coastal storm flowage performance standards for the retaining the ability to absorb and contain flood water.
Thank you, Seth. Any other questions, comments, or amendments while Will's typing? It looks like no. So would somebody like to make a motion to issue as amended? Motion made by Joe. Is there a second?
Second.
Made by Linda. So by roll vote, Beal,
Aye.
Engelborg,
Aye.
Harrisman, aye. Mazzarelli,
Abstained.
Plandowski,
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
So that carries with Commissioner Mazzarelli abstaining. Thank you, Will, for going through those with us. That moves us on to extensions of orders. We do not have any this evening. So we're on other business. So Will, enforcement actions or potential enforcement actions?
I don't have anything new tonight. We do have one. I believe it was for the June 8th meeting, but I'd have to double check that right now. But we have the one from Wawanet with the fence that was constructed. So we'll be hearing that at our next meeting, but nothing new to present tonight.
Okay, thank you. And could you stop the screen share when you get a chance?
Oh, yes. My bad.
All right, and then I'm sure this reminder will come up again, but we do have an enforcement discussion scheduled for June 1st as well. So that moves us on to Martin McGowan, Millbrook Road enforcement. And I know Marty is on to speak to this one, but we're here to discuss the grading of Millbrook Road within wetlands and wetland buffers. There's been contaminated fill material dumped within wetlands, and then sedimentation within the wetlands and clearing of a wetland ditch and vegetation, all without the benefit of a permit.
Sorry about that, Ashley. Trying to quickly jog everyone's memory with pictures.
No, I think that's good. And I know, currently, especially the little wetland that's kind of by Pumpkin Pond, it has, still contaminated material that looks like it has bits of shell and rock and other fill that we would not want within the wetland buffer. That's kind of remaining from a dump pile that was taken around the time of those photos. So Marty, I know we have you on. It would be great if you could speak to what you've been doing there historically, so that we can take the proper course of action.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We don't have picture, but we can hear you.
Okay. So, so for 20 plus years, I've been grading the road. Sometimes I dump product there and grade it myself. Sometimes people drop off loads and I use it. Sometimes people drop loads and I don't know where they come from. And I let them sit around until they sit around too long. And then I just use them. Sometimes I use them and someone yells at me. So grading of the road is just part of what happens on Millbrook for access. The town used to grade it, but they stopped. And then, so when it gets bad, people say to me, Marty, when are you going to do the road? And I get out there and I do it a little bit, and I do it when I can, but that's about it. It's not like a job I have or something like that.
So what about clearing of that wetland ditch? Because that's beyond grading of the road.
Yeah, when the wetland ditch fills up because the road runs into the ditch floods, undermines the road, and the road collapses.
So I know, what I'm looking for out of this process is hopefully a little bit of restoration work in this area. I know the little wetland buffer, has received like pretty extreme sedimentation since the grading this winter, and kind of a ditch or a track even allowing for more sedimentation and water flow to enter that spot. And also restoration of the edge of that wetland ditch, so that it's not filling in with sediment continuously. I know previously when we've had individuals who, have been doing historic maintenance, they've had to come in and potentially file a notice of intent detailing what they want to do in future maintenance. And, again, I think we need a little bit of restoration here to remove some of the contaminated material that still sits. I'm not sure if any commissioners have, questions, comments, or concerns about this one. Seth?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I think that road maintenance is sort of a unique issue on Nantucket because there's a lot of historic road maintenance, and there's a lot of roads that need it and don't get maintained. But generally, activities falling within maintenance are only allowed if the extent of them stays exactly the same. And generally people from the public reach out to the Natural Resources Department beforehand with any questions, saying, I've done this type of maintenance before. I need to do this type of maintenance. Is this acceptable, or does this require a permit? I'm not sure if that happened here. If it did, I'll look to Will or Mr. McGowan to let us know. But I think that, in my opinion, this exceeds what has been done historically. I don't know if it is permittable or not, but I think we need to deal with the enforcement by, yes, requiring restoration or requiring the applicant to file a notice for this expanded work. I mean, I think within the normal road layout of Millbrook, if you're just, grading the road and keeping it a drivable surface, that's fine. But this seems like it's extended beyond that.
Thank you, Seth. Mike?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with a lot of what everybody's had to say. Road maintenance, I'm sure there's people that lean on Marty to do the road maintenance in the neighborhood, and I feel bad about the part where no good deed goes unpunished, but if Marty cleared the road or works on the road, I assume he has the ability and the want to clean up any contaminated areas, and that could be worked out with Will and Jeff. As far as the needing of a notice of intent for any further work, again, something Will and Jeff need to weigh in on. But Marty, you can speak to it, but I'm guessing it's not a problem within a reasonable time frame to clean up what needs to be cleaned up. Thank you.
I agree.
The only thing is I would want a plan on how that's going to go so that there's not further damage to some of these resource areas. So I think that's where I'd probably like to see a notice of intent with some clear kind of action steps. Seth, I saw your hand go up.
Yes. So what, if anything, has been sent out so far? I think the first thing would be to issue the enforcement for cease and desist if we haven't done that yet. And then the next thing would be to require a plan that could be dealt with through the enforcement order for remediation, or require a notice of intent to come through for remediation. I'll defer to staff for which is better. I know we've done both in the past. So one of those things needs to happen next.
Thank you, Seth. Will, I don't know if you have an opinion there. I guess because I feel like it's unrealistic to say the road won't be graded in the future is why I would go more with a notice of intent. With conditions that then, we can close out and have be, ongoing to allow you, Marty, to grade the road and make it drivable, because I do understand that that's important to all users of that road. Will, do you have an opinion?
I'm happy to talk to Jeff about this one tomorrow, but I will say it seems to make sense to me more so to go through the NOI and we can just have some clear guidelines set. And but I think either way we can achieve that goal, but I'd like to just talk to Jeff and see if there's a reason why either way makes more sense in this scenario.
Thank you, Will. Mike?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And not to get off topic, but there's tons of roads on Nantucket that get graded that are in proximities to wetlands, through them, over them. How do we handle those? Or I'm just kind of at a loss on, not particularly on this one, and I apologize for getting off topic, but do we address that on other roads?
No, I think that's something as it comes up, we certainly should. I think if this had been normal grading and not actually dumping of fill within a wetland and clearing out a wetland ditch, we probably wouldn't be here kind of having this level of conversation. I think normal grading, just moving a machine through and kind of smoothing a road without, again, adding fill or any sedimentation to the wetland is a little bit different. But, Nantucket has a lot of little dirt roads that go by wetlands and things that are largely unseen, by the Natural Resource Office and commissioners. So, that is a bigger question, probably.
Thank you for that clarification.
Comment?
Yeah, was that you, Marty?
Yep.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, Madam Chair, thank you. Mike, everybody, thank you very much for your time this evening. I'm a little hesitant to put myself forward. I didn't actually strip the side of the road. I never have. I've always maintained it high. Several different groups maintain the road, and it especially happens when I don't do the road. I'm conservative and thoughtful about my needs for for function, and I watch nature very closely, see what's working, what needs a hand, but and in regard to Phil, only due to collapse do I ever adjust the road. So because there are multiple teams involved and multiple projects, and Millbrook is, of course, it's on the list for taking. The town's going to run the sewer all the way through there. There's going to be a lot going on there in the next couple of years. I'm kind of thinking that I'm just hesitant to take any responsibility for different sections of the road when, yeah, and I hope you consider this respectful comment. I don't really care about cleaning up the edges or doing anything you want me to do. I don't care about that. I think that the berm on the side of the road should be revegetated. You know, I mean, I think I came around the corner one day, it was gone. So, you know, and I know that it provided, you know, like a reject line down the road. And I've always kept that side of the road, you know, about 4 feet thick to try and keep everything from Millbrook going that way, because it is a low side. There's no way to stop it, but you know, it reduces it. So if you want to produce some order or tell me what you think you want me to do, I don't want to pay to fix somebody else that took the road away there. I'm happy to, you know, kind of regard the section. I actually have already cleaned the lower section over by 25 Millbrook, where my part is. When the guys dump over there, if they dump too much or it rains before we get to it, I always empty that back out, clean it. I actually go in and do it by hand, as well as, you know, simple removal. So, but I'm hesitant to take kind of responsibility for Millbrook Road. You know what I'm saying there? Is that okay kind of thing? I mean,
So Marty, I think I understand what you're saying. I guess the issue here is like I physically saw you clearing out the ditch with a machine, took a photo and contacted the office. So I know that some of the responsibility there lies with you. And unless you're willing to bring these other parties into this enforcement, it kind of does rely solely on you to repair what's happened to these wetland areas. Probably my feeling is through a notice of intent process. I understand if you don't want to be the one to grade the road in the future, but I do feel like ownership of the recent sedimentation, clearing of that wetland ditch, unfortunately does fall to you. I saw you on machines in both areas over this winter.
yeah, yeah, February, the road collapses, and that's when I deal with it.
Yeah. The other
so-
thing, Marty, I do have concerns. You know, you run a very successful big landscaping company, so having knowledge that you need wetlands permitting in these areas, I think, is really important. And I hope that, you know, this is a lesson learned. So anytime you're doing work near a wetland within the buffer area, that you're getting proper permits to do that work.
Thank you.
Seth, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and to Mr. McGowan. I hear what you're saying, but unfortunately, whether you want to take the responsibility or not, the work was done, and our process requires you to take responsibility. So just like the chair said, if you have specific names or companies who did other work in other areas and you have evidence of that work, or we can find evidence of that work, then send them our way and we'll issue enforcements on them too. But unfortunately, because your work was documented, you have to take the responsibility for it at this time.
Yeah, no problem. As I said, I'm willing to do that. You know, the cleaning of the sediment in that trench is something that, you know, you know, well, it's necessary for the water to flow on that one. So no problem there. I don't put the sediment back in the road, you know, I mean, like back on the roadside, you know, because I don't want to kill the vegetation. I don't want to put something on top of the vegetation that's there. I always go the other way. So whatever you guys come up with that you think is, you know, appropriate, I guess I'm saying I didn't strip the side of the road. Somebody else did. Unfortunately, you know, I drove by after it was gone and went, oh my God. And then, you know, I didn't photograph anybody doing it, so I don't have some documentation to share with you. So, so I can't, you know, pass it on in any way. So, how do we proceed right now? What do we do?
Well, I mean, I think a notice of intent is the way to go, but it sounds like Will would like to consult with Jeff a little bit. I don't know how other commissioners feel about asking Marty to come in, you know, with a notice of intent to restore these locations. And if you don't, you know, want to produce a notice for road maintenance, then, you know, whoever wants to do the maintenance in the future will have to do that. But I'll defer to my fellow commissioners, and if we want to continue this conversation to hear from Jeff, I'm happy to do that too. Will, and then Mike.
I was just going to say, I am about 99% sure that we can reach the same outcome with either decision if we handle it through the enforcement order or if we require a notice of intent. So if we don't want to wait to talk to Jeff, I'm pretty confident on that, but I like to be 100% on things before I say them.
No, I think it's good to be safe in that way. Mike?
Just Will kind of took the words out of my mouth, but I think this may come up in the future now that it's come up as well. So it would be good for staff to figure out which way we go, and it perhaps will streamline us on other potential enforcements later. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Joe, I saw your hand go up.
Yes. Are there any regulations on these dirt roads and who takes care of them? I mean, it sounds like the Wild West on this Millbrook, where whoever wants to repair the road repairs the road.
Well, Millbrook currently, I believe, is a private road, so it really depends on the ownership of that road, whether it's a public way, a private way, and a butter access. So it really depends. I think the issue here is the wetlands on the side and the impact to those wetlands. But Nantucket is a little bit Wild West. And I mean, we have whole neighborhood developments that aren't maintaining, you know, the storm drains, et cetera, on their roads. So it's a Nantucket problem.
Well, if you have a development that has 30 homes and 10 people are taking care of the road, it's got to be chaos to figure out what's going on.
Then, if I may.
Yep, Marty.
Thank you very much, everybody, again. Yeah, I mean, I've been on the road a long time, and like sometimes somebody will build a house and the planning board will say the road's not wide enough, you have to widen it. It's a 40-foot wide road. That road, it's a private road. They brought some houses down the other end. The planning board made them improve the road. People do construction, the planning board requires construction, or maybe the company that's working there won't work there because egress is so impaired. And so then they put it on the owner, you want to do the job, fix the road. The road tends to move a lot. And so the Wild West approach, it's a good one, Joe. I kind of like it. I don't, I guess we're on the west side of town. I'd love to, I'm more than happy to meet with Will and Jeff, get an outline for an intent going to make that side of the road happy for everybody again. I think it's important that we have that little buffer right there. Not a lot of stuff survives in that little zone. Mostly Artemisia. I look forward to the opportunity, if I may, Jeff, to just have you send me an email or something after you get a chance to talk to Jeff, and we'll come up with a pattern, and maybe that pattern will assist with future guidance in this area.
Thank you, Marty. Seth and then Mark.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Not to get too off topic, but just very quickly in reference to Joe's question. So I don't know if road maintenance is specifically laid out in the regulations locally or the Wetlands Protection Act, but maintenance certainly is. It talks about what is considered a maintenance that does not require notice of intent permitting. And what we're saying at this hearing today is that we've exceeded that definition of maintenance. I will say, and this is a discussion for later in the future, in our Nantucket local regulations, we do have a specific waiver requirement that talks about work within vehicle ways, public or semi-public roads. To Mr. McGowan's point, I don't know if Millbrook Road is technically a private way legally. I think it's technically a semi-public way. That's a question for the building or planning department. But some of this work may be able to be waived under that requirement.
That'd be great. I'd love to have more understanding of that. And as far as I know, the town wouldn't take any responsibility for the road. I did ask them about cleaning. About 5 years ago, the town showed up and cleaned out the trench near the pipe that flows under Hummock Pond Road. And so I asked them a while ago about if they were ever going to clean the trench again. And they're candid with me and said there's no immediate plan for that type of maintenance. Nor is there funding for it. So I think that, but as far as I know, it's definitely a private road. But I agree with you, Seth. It's with the land bank buying that land and the amount of traffic that's come across, and the Millbrook being a mini highway now, it's really taking traffic, and I want the town to take it. Personally, and then maintain it.
Thank you, Marty. Mark, you had your hand up. You're muted.
Thank you. I've had a lot of experience in this world being on the planning board for so long, but the town does not want to take roads. I think they're afraid of the expense. So they force the developer to form a homeowners association, and that works great, but there's no enforcement of it. Amelia Drive is a good example of a road that's, you aren't allowed to park on Amelia Drive. Try driving it sometime. But the town just does not want to take over roads unless they're forced to. In this case, I like the idea of having we'll sit down with Jeff and try and make a recommendation to us at our next meeting, either enforcement or NOI. And I think that's the most logical answer that I can see on this project. And if we can get it cleaned up with an NOI, I'd prefer that rather than an enforcement order. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Any other questions or comments? All right, it looks like no. So Marty, it sounds like you'd be willing to, discuss, excuse me, with staff potential ideas for kind of restoration of these areas. Will, do you think if we continued this discussion until the next meeting, we could have some answers and a plan from Marty? I hate, Marty, for you to have to come back for the next meeting if you'll have to come back for a notice in the future, but we could probably get an answer from Will at our next meeting.
I think that's completely reasonable.
Okay. So if everybody is okay with this, we'll continue the discussion until our June 8th meeting. Oh, Will?
Sorry, I just wanted to make one point clear because it just entered my head, but I will not see Jeff until Tuesday. So this conversation won't happen tomorrow, but I still think that's plenty of time. And Marty, we can get in touch Tuesday and go from there.
Okay, definitely reach out to me Tuesday. I'm traveling.
All right.
Thanks. I look forward to taking care of this.
Yes.
No worries.
So Marty, thank you for appearing before us. I know this isn't easy as you're taking ownership of sounds like multiple people's actions. So we really appreciate you attending this evening.
Thank you very much.
And we will continue this discussion item until June 8th. All right, so that moves us on to discussion of council requests for SBPF removal order. So we kind of talked about this last meeting, but continued it to hopefully have a full commission, but we've lost Ian. But either way, just to recap, I reached out to Attorney Timon after our meeting. I guess it was 2 meetings ago per the commission request, that he consult us on the removal order. He felt it necessary to contact Libby Gibson and the select board regarding his ability to continue. And the response from Libby was that the litigation is long over and that he is not able to represent us at this point. She outlined that we can resend paperwork through the proper channels, requesting special counsel again. And I just don't know how commissioners feel about that, how you'd like to proceed. If you'd like us to re-request through the town channels. Or if anybody has any questions or comments. Seth?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess what would be the nature of his engagement? Are we just asking him to provide us technical or legal advice on carrying out the removal, or what's the goal here?
I mean, I think the initial request, and if I remember correctly, it was a 7-0 vote to ask that he consult us. We had hoped to maybe have an executive session regarding the removal order, maybe lack of progress on the removal order, and some commissioners, I think, even stating that they wanted to potentially reverse or postpone that removal order. And that requires legal counsel to do. So that's kind of what got us to the request. Linda, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I sort of had the same question as Seth. about why we need town council again, or separate council. If it's a simple question of how we proceed with rescinding the removal order, et cetera, that is something that town council can advise us on if she will not let us have our council back. But I don't really know where to go with this at this point.
I know I would not feel comfortable asking town council on this matter just because there is a clear conflict of interest with the, town council kind of representing the select board who maybe has different feelings on the removal order. But I understand if the commission just doesn't want to proceed any further with this. At this point, Seth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree that there is an ongoing conflict of interest with town council. I think that there are a variety of ideas that have been presented with what to do with the removal order. Even within this commission, people have differing opinions. And I think we need to ensure that some of those actions are legal and don't impact the decision of Superior Court unless we purposely want to do that. But I think council requests would be appropriate. I do think I support sending a letter requesting. I do think in that we should lay out all of the potential strategies we have. So if I'm not in favor of rescinding the order, but I hear that other commissioners are. So if that's something on the table that we want to discuss with the special counsel, we should include that in the request, so that we're being robust and honest about what's the purpose of the request. It's because the situation has gotten complicated and we're seeking legal advice on that complicated situation.
Thank you, Seth. Joe?
We had a joint meeting with the select board at least a month ago. All these brilliant ideas, the timetables laid out, the 30-day timetable, 60-day and 90. I don't think anything's been done. I've not seen a summary report from that group that was holding those sessions. Everything is just died.
Yeah, that was a kind of work groupy meeting, in being part of some of these work groups in the past. I'm maybe not surprised that we haven't made some of the progress that, our good intentions had. It is, it's kind of parallel to the removal order, but separate, but certainly it would be nice to see some action taken there. Mike, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not opposed to sending a letter, especially if other commissioners want to do it. I'm a little skeptical that the town is going to do much for us based on past comments and recent actions with other matters, but I'm not opposed to sending a letter if other commissioners want to go that way.
Thank you, Mike. I have to say I'm not opposed to sending a letter either. I do, however, feel like kind of begged and pleaded through other letters we've sent for special counsel recently, and kind of my feeling is maybe no meant no, and they're just not intending to give us counsel here. But I'm happy to go at it another time and see if maybe a new select board member, maybe the perspective has changed with them. Seth, I see your hand going up.
Yeah, I'm ready to provide a motion.
Okay, if there's not further comments or questions, go ahead, Seth.
So I'll move that the commission the commission and the commission staff draft a letter that will be reviewed by the commission for final approval before sending to the select board requesting special municipal council to continue to help us navigate the removal order process and the complexities related to that process.
Thank you, Seth. Is there a
Didn't,
second?
Madam Chair, well, I'll second it for discussion, but didn't Will send us a draft letter?
That draft letter is for a chapter 91. That's for town council request on a different matter.
Okay, because I knew it was a town council request.
Yeah, so this would be for special counsel and not town council.
Okay.
Mark, are you making a second? Okay, so Mark is.
Linda already seconded it, but I have a suggestion for Seth.
Oh, sorry, I thought she just had a question.
Didn't you second it, Linda?
Yeah, I did for discussion.
Okay, thank you. My suggestion to Seth is that to keep things moving, or this has been dragging on now for months and months, that the letter be approved by the chair and vice chair. That way we can get it moving. The whole commission, I think, doesn't need to see it. It's a pretty simple letter asking for assistance in the enforcement order.
Seth, would you be willing to amend your motion?
Sure. I mean, if the commission is going to vote against it because of that, I trust our chair. I don't know if it takes really that much longer for us to review it than just for her to review it, but I don't really care. So that's fine either way.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with you, Seth. I don't think it takes much longer, but
All right, I withdraw my suggestion.
Okay. All right. If there's Joe, are you making a discussion?
Yes,
Okay.
it might be different now that there are two new select board members.
Well, only one new one.
Yeah, there's only one new one since the last time I was up in front of them, but yeah, either way, perspectives may have changed from our work group meetings, etc. Especially, I think outlining some of the complex questions that we have might sway them. Yeah. So at this point, Seth's made a motion. Linda seconded it. Are we ready to go to roll vote? Looks like yes. So by roll vote, Beal,
Aye.
Engelborg,
Aye.
Harrisman, aye. Mazzarelli,
Aye.
Landowski,
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
All right, that carries unanimously. And that moves us on to reports. We lost our crack member for internet issues, so we'll go to CPC. Oh, you're muted. Mark, you were
Sorry.
muted.
Yep. Sorry. The CPC, we met and approved, again, just some simple funding for projects that are already completed.
Thank you, Mark. NP and EDC.
Thank you, Madam Chair. When I gave you the last update, there was a discussion about the open space and recreation plan, which I'd indicated we had hoped to be finalized. Unfortunately, it's still not finalized. The select board is hoping to talk about it later in June, and we are very much requesting that they accept it at that point, but they still have a few lingering questions, I guess, but hopefully we will have that plan completed before the end of the summer.
We will keep our fingers crossed that that occurs. The harbor plan.
We have our first public hearing of many on June 5th from 6 to 8 at the Nantucket Hotel. We're looking for really good public participation throughout the summer as well, because there are a lot of the areas in the area that we're updating our summer people. So we're going to continue to have public hearings all summer long for various times. So it's a really active, very committed group of people. Very pleased.
That's great.
Will, do you have that information on the meeting?
On the SHAB meeting,
On the Harbor Plan Update Committee public meeting?
Harbor Plan update, I can get it and send it out easily.
Yeah, please.
I just got the flyer today from Kimberly, and it's not really clear. It's very blurry, but I did post it up on Facebook here and there so they can at least see the date. Jeff has the flyer, by the way, Will.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
I might even have it somewhere on the O drive, but I'm sorry to butt in, but Linda, if you'd even email that to me in the meantime, that'd be awesome.
Okay.
Great, thank you. And that moves us to the offshore wind work group.
Nothing going on there other than the windmills are being built.
Okay, thank you. So that moves us on to commissioners' comments. Mike?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to ask everybody to pardon me for being late to the meeting. It's a busy time of the year, but hopefully I won't have to do that too many more times.
No, well, we appreciate you coming and understand that, people need to be late and miss meetings sometimes.
And this is only the beginning of summer. Yay.
Right. So I have like one comment. I know I've been talking to Will about minutes and producing our minutes, and I'm hoping maybe for an opinion from town council regarding kind of the length of time we can take between our meetings and producing minutes, and to reach out and ask the town what that's looking like for us, like if there's somebody in the works to actually assist in minutes taking. I'm not sure if at some point a commissioner would want to volunteer to help with that process, but we're trying to work through that because I think the delay is going to produce a sticky situation for us. Will?
I just figured I'd comment with any information I do have. But I did reach out, I think 2 weeks ago at this point, to check where the process was for hiring a minutes taker, because we absolutely need a minutes taker. And they had candidates and they were mailing out offers, but I haven't heard anything since. So I think it's time for me to check back in. And two, I am very hopeful that next week I can at least get a couple meetings done, maybe one, but they are, we have some 5-hour meetings in the docket, and it does take a significant amount of time. But I'm under the impression from asking around that there's a period of time that minutes are supposed to be done by, but it's really as soon as they can be reasonably done. But that said, I don't want to have a backlog to hand over to the new minutes taker because it'll be substantial. That's it.
Thank you, Will. Linda?
Having done minutes for 40 years and having had multiple discussions with town council and the state about what exactly is required for a set of minutes, I can go over it with you, Will, and make it much simpler and much more concise for you, because they're not verbatim. Town council doesn't want them verbatim. Who spoke? What was the concern in one sentence, and move on? And what was particularly what the vote was and who voted what? So I can go over with you how to truncate these minutes so you can get them done.
I would take that, Linda, 100%. And I will say I tried, Lisa's been doing minutes too, and I tried to keep mine very brief, but it was still a good, 3 or 4 hours of a day that I definitely have places to be and things to see.
They're horrible. I hated doing them, but I did them for so many years that you get sort of a shorthand,
absolutely.
plus going through town council over and over again about what to do and what not to do in the minutes to make it life a lot easier.
Mhm.
The other thing, it might be worth revisiting AI again, because, you know, we talked about that way back when Terry retired, but that technology is getting smarter every day. So it might be able to do
I have
verify.
I have tried it. It may be that I'm in the green sciences and not a giant computer nerd, but it was not working for me.
They tried it at the planning board and they tried it at the HDC as well. And it's sort of it doesn't capture what you need to capture.
Yeah, you have to go back through and edit so much that it's essentially the same amount of time as if you just do it. And then I was wasting time trying to get AI to work, and it just felt unproductive and terrible.
Totally respect that. All right. Any other commissioners' comments before I give it over to Will?
No, another good meeting, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Linda. So Will, administrator staff reports.
Yes. I had a public comment emailed in that someone's chat function wasn't working, but I believe that I have to read it into record at the next meeting because the item that we were hearing is closed. However, this was my planned staff comment tonight anyway, and I think it's very relevant to this comment, but we sent out the draft letter for some of our Chapter 91 related questions and pre-existing use. I just want to try to get everybody to take a good look at that. It's not on the agenda for next week, but it's possible that I could put it on the agenda if we want to look at that. But we also don't have to, we don't need to vote. We don't need to make a motion. If everybody approves of the letter, then I'll send out that request for town council. But I just want everybody to get eyes on that and make sure that we are asking the correct specific questions that we want answered. But that's it. Just email me any edits, any questions, anything at all. Check it out.
Thank you, Will. So hopefully everybody can look at that for Will. And then just a reminder that we do have a June 1st meeting on our schedule.
And it's at 4 p.m., not 5.
Okay. And we are meeting remotely, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Can you just remind me of the topic for the June one?
We're hopefully going to approve our regulations, hopefully, because the response from town council has come back. We're also going to go through some enforcement issues that have been ongoing and were kind of historic issues that Will inherited and kind of had to backtrack. So it's mostly going to focus on some outstanding enforcement issues and then our regulations.
What was the date again, Madam Chair?
It's next Thursday, which is June 1st.
Okay, same time?
At 4.
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock. Okay.
Great. All right, so if there's no other questions or comments, would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn? A motion made by Mike, seconded by Joe. So by roll vote, Beal,
Aye.
Engelborg,
Aye.
Harrisman, aye, Mazzarelli,
Aye.
Landowski,
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Right, that carries unanimous. Thank you, everybody, for your time.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Yeah.
Good night.
Have a great
Next
weekend,
week.
everybody.
Thank
You
you,
too.
Ashley, for your time. All right, shape up now, Will.
Should we just talk now?
Oh, sure.
Have a great weekend.